Yo, what is good, ladies and gentlemen? Ganesh here, and today in this video we're going to be going over the Madara Uchiha's full kit review. We're going to be reviewing every one of his jutsus, and at the end of the video we're going to be seeing a conclusion of whether he's worth the Shinobites or not. Maybe that question is too late for a lot of you that actually already bowled on him. But yeah, at the end of the video you're going to see whether it was worth it to bowl on him or not. And for people who didn't bowl on him yet and were waiting whether to bowl or not, I would say still wait until Obito, because if you waited this long, you can wait until Obito comes out into the game, and then you can decide whether he's better or Obito. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about everything, we're gonna be testing everything, and then at the end of the day, we're gonna have a final conclusion whether he's good or not. Alright, we're gonna start off with the most important question here, which is how do we get over tornado traps? Now, a lot of people are asking me that, and I wanted to try it first before anything else. And basically, there's no way to go over tornado traps, which is a big minus for Madara. So Madara is so OP in theory, but when it comes to tornado traps, he is literally useless. So if you take Madara and you try to go over these tornado traps with any of your jutsus or even your regular attacks, you will always find yourself taking or eating these tornado traps, and you'll be sent all the way back to another floor, which is so annoying in fortresses that waste a lot of time. So as you can see, for example, we have a tornado trap right in front of me right now. I cannot do anything to move forward over that without activating them. So as you can see, all of his attacks happen as he stands still. And if you decide to use your regular attacks to move forward, you're gonna take the tornado trap anyway, because it doesn't move forward that much. If it moves forward, it's gonna stop exactly on the tornado trap, which just sucks. You can try to detect it by moving very slow, but that's gonna waste a lot of time. So like that. So we have one here, probably not gonna be okay. So you can detect them this way, but it's gonna take a long time, considering that the fact that you cannot even know where they are. Like, I knew this tornado trap was here, that's why I was trying to detect it. But yeah, you should, like, if you're experienced enough, you would be able to know that, for example, there's one right here, and there you go, I ate it. So you cannot always, even if you try to detect the tornado trap, you will sometimes even like take the trap, and yeah, well, you will just basically die. But there is also one more option, which is to push one of your teammates over the tornado traps. Now, a lot of people do that in case they want to use a character that doesn't have the skill or the jutsu to move over these tornado traps. So they basically just sacrifice, or they detect the tornado traps using their teammates. So their teammates would be able to take the fall or the tornado trap instead of them. So I'm taking Hashram here. I'm using him for the detection of the trap. So as you can see, I'm moving him. I'm so far away from the tornado trap, so there's no way for the tornado trap to actually hit me. So I'm gonna wait until it comes back. Normally you have 3 of your teammates. You can just basically use them to detect one tornado trap after the other, and there you go. You just have to wait until the tornado trap is gone, and then you can use your other teammate to continue detecting the traps. It's much safer that way than trying to detect it yourself, but it takes a long time, and yeah, that's still a very bad thing that Madara doesn't have in his kit, something to go over these tornado traps, which I would say makes him almost balanced there. So there. Alright, so we're gonna start now talking about every one of his jutsus on their own, and we're starting with the Firestall Majestic Destroyer Flame. So what it does is that it releases a fireball, causing damage and inflicting damage over time. The effect is medium. The damage over time effect is exactly the same as the one in the Mangekyo Sharingan. It takes 50% off the total HP of the enemy. So I'm saying total HP here and not the current HP, because your enemy could have lost some HP before you actually use it on them, and you're still gonna take down 50% HP of the total HP. So let's say, for example, the enemy had 10,000, and when you used it, the enemy had only 7,000. that means he's still gonna lose 5,000, which is basically the 50% of the total HP, which was 10,000. So basically 50% of the total HP, you have to keep that in mind all the time. It's not gonna be 50% of the current HP. And it has, by the way, 5 seconds cooldown. If we're gonna compare it to the Mega Sharingan, which has 8 seconds, it's yeah, it's really good. But it doesn't have the paralyze effect, but it also has the initial damage, which is 8,020 in max level and 36% critical hits rate. So I mean, I wouldn't really compare them, because the paralyze effect, you cannot just compare it with the initial damage, because I think the paralyze effect is more important than the initial damage. But in any way, this is really good. This is a really good jutsu. Feels actually like an ultimate jutsu. So we're gonna test it right now in the fortress. We're gonna test the animation and the range. So by the way, the range is really good right now. It's the biggest range for jutsu in this kind. So the biggest so far was the Sasori's Poison Smoke. It was able to go for 4 squares ahead. And it could go through these walls, the biggest walls in the game. And you could take down 2 installations, like 2 squares in front of these walls. But then Madara came with his fire style, and he can actually take down 3 installations, so he can go for 5 squares in front of him. So as you can see, it's so powerful, and he actually had Sasori there. So as you can see, you can kill any enemy that is like stuck in this part using only this jutsu. And you don't even have to like use it a lot. You can just use it once and wait until the damage over time effect happens on the enemy. And yeah, you just can kill them with any other jutsu. And let's talk now about the Susanoo. Or you know, let's just start talking about the animation first, because this is the last thing I want to be talking about here in the Fire Style Majestic Destroyer Flame. The animation takes around 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds. So between 1.5 and 2 seconds. And yeah, you can use it and just move, and the effect is still in the floor. So in case the enemy tries to follow you and they got into the range of the attack, even though after you used it and you left, they're still gonna get hit. They're gonna get the damage and the damage over time effect, which is so powerful in my opinion. So that's really amazing. Yeah, that's why I said it feels like an ultimate jutsu. It has a very huge range, goes for like 5 squares in front of you. It has the damage over time effect, which is so powerful. It does a lot of damage. It has the animation that stays for around 2 seconds, which means every enemy that walks inside can actually basically die. Not die, like get hit with that jutsu, even though you already left. So the next stop we have the Susanoo Evil Jutsu, which is a rare jutsu, and it doesn't feel like a rare jutsu. It feels like an ultimate as well. So he uses his Susanoo to attack with 2 katanas. It has 7 seconds cooldown, and it has a very huge range. You can basically kill everything from very far away. So you can see I'm gonna kill Sasori from here, which is very far away. Dude, it's just very, very amazing. Like, it goes for a very long targets. I think it has exactly the same range as Hashirama's dragon. So if you remember the wooden dragon, it went for a very long distance, and yeah, basically it has that distance. So let's try to get that installations from here. Okay, you need to you see, the thing is, the range is like almost in a straight line. It has some kind of like thickness to it, but it's still a straight line, and you have to kind of aim with it. So as you can see, you can kill the installations from very far away. So the range is really good. And by the way, at max level, you have 55% critical rate in the attack. It doesn't have that much damage, but it has very high critical hit rate. So let me show you. There it is. 55% critical hit rate at max level. It only has 5,800 power compared to the Fire Style Majestic Destroyer Flame. It's like 2,200 less, but has very high critical hit rate. It has CP cost of 100. I think this one also has 100 CP cost. So you can see how high his CP cost is. So it doesn't really matter. Both attacks are so powerful. They work exactly like a freaking ultimate. So yeah, they're just amazing, and they deserve the amount of CP that you're gonna use on them. Next up, we have the Uchiha Reflection, which has an even higher CP cost. It's 130 CP cost, and it also deserves that because it's so amazing. Except for the fact that sometimes you might mess with it. I mean, you're not gonna mess. You use it, and the enemy doesn't attack you, and it just goes to waste. So it has 5400 power. So you can see right now it has its own damage. So you do not reflect the damage the enemy uses on you. So in case an enemy uses his ultimate on you, you're gonna reflect the damage, but with your own damage. You're not gonna reflect the damage of the ultimate. So let's say, for example, the ultimate had 100,000 damage, because ultimates do a lot of damage anyway. So you're not gonna reflect the 100,000 damage. You're gonna reflect your own damage, which I think it depends, of course, on your attack, and it depends on the enemy's defense. Could go to 10,000, can be only 2,000. So it doesn't really matter that much. So yeah, he causes damage during the counter attack. So the enemy needs to attack you. If you use it and the enemy doesn't attack you, it's not gonna do anything. You're just gonna waste 130 CP cost. Randomly decreasing defense or evasion. So it has a debuff for evasion and defense. The evasion part is really not that important. It could be important because in case an enemy like has some kind of evasion effect added to them, like if they use the Sharingan, for example, their evasion effect is gonna go down instead of up. Like it went up with the Sharingan Jutsu, or the skill of the Sharingan, and then it's gonna go down with this effect. So it debuffs the evasion. That means you're gonna be able to hit more. You're not gonna miss some of your attacks. That's the whole point of the evasion debuff. And then the defense debuff, which is the best the debuff in the game right now. It's a small effect. I don't know exactly the amount of each defense that it takes down. We will try to test that on Sasuke Wonder Ninja or Itachi version 2, because they both have this effect. Itachi version 2 has the medium effect of it, but Sasuke has exactly the same effect, which is small effect. So yeah, basically you need the enemy to attack you first in order for these debuffs to actually work on them. And it's random, by the way. It only happens, like one of them happens with every attack. In case the enemy, for example, uses some kind of double attack or double hit attack, and you reflected both hits, you have two chances to like get one of these debuffs. You can get the same debuff twice in a row. You can get both debuffs. You can actually you sometimes actually not get any debuff, which is weird. It happens to me sometimes, but I don't know how it works. So it has 6 seconds cooldown, so you can use it a lot. This actually works very good in the SAM. Every Jutsu, by the way, works very good in the SAM, but this one for sure works much better than any other one. Yeah. There's something I forgot to talk about, by the way, in the Susanoo Evil. When he uses the Susanoo Evil, it has an iframe. So it's not just an attacking jutsu that you can use from far away, and it has a very huge critical hit rate or power or cooldown that's not really that high. It also has an iframe effect. So the iframe effect, if you don't know what an iframe effect, the iframe effect is a state that the character goes in when they basically use their jutsu or their ultimate. Every ultimate, by the way, has an iframe effect. And what happens here is that you get out of the map. Your character is not in the map anymore. So if any damage happens over you, or the animation of that jutsu doesn't reflect on you in any kind of way, so you don't get any damage as soon as you get into that iframe state. So basically he has that iframe state in the Susanoo Evil, which is longer than the iframe that he has in the Uchiha Reflection. So yes, Uchiha Reflection has also an iframe state in it, but not as long as Susanoo Evil. It's like 1 second, which is, I would have said it's the lowest or the quickest iframe in the game, but there's a quicker one, which is the one that Sasuke Wonder Ninja has in his Almighty Bush Jutsu. But this one has a slightly higher or longer animation in its iframe, but it's not as good as the Susanoo Evil iframe. So a lot of you will be asking me whether Uchiha Reflection can reflect the ultimates or not. and it does. It reflects the ultimate, but of course it doesn't do any damage to the enemy because most of the time, I mean, it depends. It depends actually. So in case the enemy has an ultimate that does only one hit, you're not gonna get any damage because the ultimate is gonna reflect it, and yeah, the enemy is not gonna get the damage most of the time because their iframe in their ultimate will save them from that reflection. But in case their ultimate was very fast, like for example the one Bane has, the Shinra Tensei, or the one that Sasuke Wonder Ninja has in his Susanoo ultimates, that are very fast and their iframe goes away very quick. That means the reflection can actually get to them. So the damage from the reflection can get to them after they use their ultimates. But most of the time it doesn't happen during ultimates because they somehow survive from the iframe in their ultimates. And in case the ultimate has more than one hit, the ultimate is not gonna be completely reflected and you're gonna die. So you're gonna be able to reflect the first hit, but if there's a second hit or more than a second hit, then rep, you're gonna die. Yeah, so basically it's really good in reflecting jutsus that has, not in jutsus actually, any attack that is a one hit. In case there's an attack that has multi hits, most of the time it's just gonna reflect the first or the two hits that are in the first second, and everything after that is gonna hit you. And that's why I sometimes hate to use it in an attack mission. So far, by the way, you see how this is in theory so powerful. Like everything is so amazing. Everything is stacked. Like basically they added everything from the top characters in the game into Madara's kits. So for example, the Sasuke Wonder Ninja is a top character because of his defense debuff effect, which is small. They added to Uchiha Reflection. The iframe, they added the iframe effect to two of his jutsus. Yeah, that's one thing in the Uchiha Reflection. The effect, the range of his Susanoo Evil was taken from the Wooden Dragon of Hashirama, which is so powerful. It has also the iframe. It has the damage as well. It has the critical hit rate, which was given, I think, to the first character that has that was the Sage Mode Naruto. So that is really good as well. And then the first style Majestic Destroyer Flame has the damage over time effect, which was given to Mangekyo Sharingan for Itachi, and right now it makes him almost perfect because of that damage over time effect. So it was given to him. Plus, they gave him also the range of that is better than the Poison Smoke that Sasori has. And Sasori, by the way, is a top ranker, or used to be a top rank character because of that range in his smoke. So you can see how powerful his kit is in theory. But when you start playing with it, it really doesn't get you anywhere. And so far, I've been trying to get a single win in 2 days, and I haven't won a single game. It's mostly because of his survivability and because of his movement, his mobility. He doesn't have anything to go over to raid traps or traps in general, and he doesn't survive as much as a defense character or a green character or anything. So he dies very fast. And in case you decide to use the Uchiha Reflection, most of the time you're gonna die because most of the powerful attacks like the Shadow Clone Jutsu, for example, or the Shurikens are multi-hit attacks, and they don't get reflected completely, and most of the damage just takes place on you, and it's really, really annoying. So yeah, this is the Uchiha Reflection, and it's really good against, again, ultimates and attacks that are only one hit. But if it comes to multi-hit attacks, it's just... Alright, next up we have the ultimate of Tengai Shinsei, or the Shattered Heaven. So it has 5,000 power and only level 1. So imagine at level 8, at level 8 by the way, it has 11,000 power. It's the highest in the game so far. So it has 120 seconds cooldown, and when you see an ultimate that has 120 seconds cooldown, that means it's made for the SAM, and that's just for the SAM. You can always use it as a support character, because when Sage Mode Naruto came for the first time, or Kamui for Kakashi, I tried to use them. I mean, I didn't have Kamui, but I tried to use Sage Mode Naruto as a sub character, and he worked kind of okay. But then there was the problem with the range of his ultimates. But that right now is solved because the Shattered Heaven has the exact same range in terms of size as Bane's Almighty Bush, which is the biggest ultimate in the game. So the only difference is that the range is not around him like Bane does with his Almighty Bush, and it wouldn't make sense actually to drop the meteorite on top of you. He drops the meteorite in front of him, so basically he covers the whole range in front of him. So you can just like stop at the beginning or in one corner of any of the floors, and you're gonna clear the whole floor, basically. So this is really amazing. They just took one more great thing in the game, a top tier thing like the size of the ultimate of Pain, and put it in this ultimate. So that just gives you an idea of how powerful his kit is. Okay, so I'm gonna be making a quick comparison here between his ultimates and the Sage Mode Naruto's ultimates, because they both are annihilation nature, and in case any Sam that comes from now on that features the annihilation again, you're gonna be like asking yourself which one should I choose over the other one. So if in case we only have the ultimates here, we're not gonna talk about the full kit, because if we talk about the full kit, it's gonna be a totally different story. But we're just gonna like talk about the ultimates. So both of them are annihilation nature, and both of them have the 120 seconds cooldown. So as you can see here, Sage Mode Naruto with his Rasenshuriken has the 120 seconds cooldown as well, and the power, however, is lower than the one that Madara has. As I mentioned, Madara has the highest power at level 1 right now. Of course, if you level it up, it's gonna be an even bigger difference, but that's not what we're talking about here. So the range for the Rasen Shuriken is very small compared to the Shattered Heavens ultimates, and it could be a problem, a huge problem actually in the Sam, especially against Sam bosses that move a lot, like Kurama. He keeps like going up, down, to the back. He jumps up in the air to the right, to the left. So the range for Sage Mode Naruto's Rasen Shuriken is very small, and it most of the time actually misses, even against 8 tails and 1 tail when we actually had to use this Rasen Shuriken. So I would say Madara with his ultimate, with his range, is so good in the Sam right now, because most of the time you're not going to be able to mess with his ultimate. Sometimes you do, in case you try to like head from very far away, and then the Sam boss moves even farther to the back, then you can mess. But most of the time, if you are very near to the enemy, to the Sam boss, most likely you're not going to mess anyway. Next up, we have the heads. The heads for Rasen Shuriken have more heads, so it does 10 heads. Now I would say the extra heads in the Rasen Shuriken kind of compensate for the damage, the extra damage that the Shattered Heaven has. So I would say overall they will do probably the same amount of damage. But then if we add the kit to the equation, so the full kit of Sage Mode Naruto is not really as good as the one that Madara has. Madara's kit is so powerful, but then Madara's kit doesn't have healing jutsu. So in case you ever need a healing jutsu, in case like for example the Sam becomes very hard and the enemies hit very hard and powerful attacks, so you're just gonna need the healing here. But other than that, if you want to do damage, a lot of damage, you're gonna use Madara at the end of the day. So I would say both of them are in the same range, because the heads compensate for the damage. And yeah, the only problem here is going to be for Sage Mode Naruto's range. But other than that, Madara, I think he's going to be better. Like they kind of outclass Sage Mode Naruto with Madara right there. Alright, so at the end of the day, I would say in theory, Madara Uchiha's kit is so powerful. Like if you check every jutsu right now, it has 1 or 2 features of the best features that make some characters in the top tier right now. It has the iframe, it has the defense debuff effect, it has the damage over time effect, it has the biggest ranges in the game, even the ultimate, the biggest range ultimate in the game, Bane's ultimate is right now in his ultimate. So he has everything he needs. But then that's just in theory. When you get actually into the gameplay, if you get to attack mission as a main character, and I beg you to not do that. It's a very bad idea. Do not do it. You can take him as a sub character. That's okay. He's really good as a sub character. He's okay in defense. He's really good in defense. Actually, he's actually the same as Wandering Ninja. If you ever took Wandering Ninja Sasuke in your team as a sub character or in defense, or if you left him in defense, he's exactly the same as him. Maybe a little bit better, but he is as good as him. You can just take a picture out of that and give it to Madara. But if you're gonna take him as a main character, he's gonna be really bad. And I would say it's because of the cooldown. So this is one thing I didn't mention here. The cooldown of his jutsus are very high. The lowest is 5 seconds. And if you check the cooldown of the best characters in attack mission right now, they have a maximum of 2 or 3 seconds cooldown in their jutsus. And that's why he's really not that great. You might actually use all of his skets, and then you end up having to use only your regular attacks for a while, and that really sucks. And there's the ultimate that you can only use it like twice when you go in attack mission as a main character. So as I mentioned before, his kit is really good and works like an ultimate. They have very good effects, but they're kind of hard to actually use because you have to get used to them. I would say the main reason why I didn't get a single one until now is that because I'm not used to them. The iframe, for example, in his jutsus are very, very low. Like the time for them are very low, and I cannot get used to that. Normally, when I have an iframe jutsu, I have a lot of time in my hand to actually think about something after that iframe ends. But he only has like 1 second or 1.5 seconds in his iframes. The damage over time is somehow a problem as well, because sometimes you get the enemy to under 40% HP, and then you have them using their ultimates, and you don't know what to do there. You can use your chair reflection, but in case the ultimate has multiple hits, it's gonna kill you anyway. You can use the Susanoo Evil Jutsu, but it has 7 seconds cooldown. You might have used it right before the enemy used his ultimate, and you're gonna have to wait for like 3 seconds before you can actually use it again. And by the time it comes back, you're dead. So yeah, Madara is great in the SAM. He's great as a defense character, as a sub character, but no way as a main. So there you go, guys. This is the full K review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to click like if you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or any other inquiries, just leave them in the comment section below. I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.